right, everybody good? Well, first off, welcome back to everyone. Hope you all had a great summer. We're looking forward to an exciting time as we get ready to kick off the 2023 season of Marshall football here. Wanted to go over a couple things with you. Just really quick, remember from a procedure standpoint, Saturdays are going to be open days for media. Following those practices, you'll be able to get interviews. Please get those requests in for players to us by Friday. That way those can be approved and we can move forward with that and make sure you're taken care of for Saturday. I also had a couple of quick facts I wanted to go over with you all, stuff that I looked up last week, and we went over at SBC Media Day that I think will be of interest to you. Marshall was one of only 9 FBS teams to win their final 5 games of 2022. We were the only SBC team to finish 22, ranked in the top 10 in FBS in both scoring defense and total defense. There were 6 players named to the preseason All Sun Belt teams, which tied for the most in the East Division. We led FBS last year in opponent third down conversion percentage, only allowing 23.5%. There's 4 returning O-line starters from an FBS top 20 rushing offense. We were top 5 in FBS in 22 in turnovers gained with 29. And obviously, Micah Abraham was ranked 3rd in FBS and interceptions with 6. And we're one of 2 teams with running backs ranked in the top 10 in FBS and rushing TDs the last 2 seasons. The other team being Michigan. 2021, that was Rasheen Ali, who returns for this year, and last year, of course, Kalen Laborn. Without anything further, I will introduce the guy that will lead Marshall football into the 23 season, his 3rd, Coach Charles Huff.
All right, how's everybody doing? After almost a year, Grant still looks extremely nervous up here, so nothing has changed on that front. Glad you guys are all here. Appreciate everything you guys do. Obviously, Luke has brought a hurricane back from New Orleans with him. He's excited. He enjoyed his time down there. For somehow the media team got to stay an extra day. I don't know if that was planned or due to travel, but we had a great time down there. Hopefully you guys have all enjoyed your summers. This is the official kickoff not only to the 2023 football season, but to the 2023 fall sports season for Marshall. And obviously you guys are aware there's a lot of positive things going on here at Marshall University. Every day I get to ride in and actually see the baseball stadium is going up. It's not a joke. It's not a optical illusion. It is actually happening. And Christian Spears, Brad Smith, and the board, all the people involved in getting that project up and running have done a phenomenal job. We've obviously hired a new track coach, a new softball coach. I cannot block or tackle as well as Coach Zirkle can hit home runs, as you guys see. But a lot of positive going on. I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm honored, humbled to be the leader of this program. This community has been phenomenal. I think from the day I got here until today, we all have attempted to improve, and that's what the goal is, and that's what the goal always will be, on the field, off the field, in the stands, administration, the whole 9. So obviously football season is upon us. Obviously everyone is excited at this point. I truly get excited. To me, this is like Christmas Day for football coaches, because what you get to see when these young men enter the room on the first day of camp is what is pure about college football. Our game has taken a change. Our game is changing landscapes between NIL, conference realignment, transfer portal, all the things that are going on in our game. At the core of it is still young men who love playing the game of football. For a lot of these guys, it started at 5 years old, and there was no transfer portal, there was no NIL. It was just let me go to the park or let me go in the backyard and play with my friends. And that's what you get to see on day one. There's no stats, there's no losses, there's no missed tackles, there's no catches, touchdowns, there's no why am I not the starter, when am I going to play. It's just pure excitement. And I think what we've got to do as an organization is we've got to bottle that excitement and combine it with the focus to improve. over these next 29 or 30 days, whatever it may be. We've got to find a way for every person, every unit, every department in this organization to improve. Hopefully we make grand strides. Some areas, some players are going to make minimal strides. I always go back to when Kobe Bryant and LeBron James go into the offseason, they're not looking to go in and improve their shooting percentage by 80%. LeBron James is trying to find a way to play 1 more minute a game, 2 more minutes a game. Kobe's trying to find a way to improve his game just a little bit. So minor improvement can be great for some. And then obviously we've got younger guys who are just stepping on the field for the first time, and they're going to be trying to make great strides. So with that, I'm excited. We got 40 new players. 25 of them via the transfer portal. Some of them were here this spring. A lot of them were not. 5 junior college players, which has become a little bit of the unspoken, recruiting tool now that the transfer portal has come along. Marshall has made a lot of success over the years in the junior college ranks. Obviously, with the way things have changed now, not only with transfer portal, but with high school requirements, that's a little bit less effective now, but we still use it where needed. And then we got 10 high school players. Those numbers can change every year. I'm going to be honest. The formula we have is win. So if I got to bring in 50 transfer portal guys to win, we're going to do it. If we got to bring in 24 high school guys to win, we're going to do it. We are still actively recruiting the high schools, but ultimately it's about filling the holes that are created on your roster and in your team. And by year, that may change. Some years we're going to lose a lot of players that have a lot of immediate impact, and we're going to have to replace them with some immediate answers. And then there's going to be years where overall depth is going to be important, and we're going to have to address that. So we don't have a unique formula to where I'm going to stand up here every year and say we took X amount of this and X amount of that. We're going to take what it takes to win. And I think that's something that's going to be ever changing. You can ask 1,000 different coaches and they have different approaches. Ultimately, we are going to do what it takes to win when it comes to recruiting. Camp objectives, the coach's goal is to evaluate, players' goal is to improve. We don't play a game tomorrow unless they tell us something's changed. We play a game in 30 days. So what we've got to do is improve over those 30 days. Coaches got to evaluate over those 30 days. Every day is not going to be the same. Every player is not going to have the same amount of ups and downs. But coaches, we've got to step back and evaluate everything, the way they walk on the field, the way they sit in the meetings, the way they learn, the way they perform, the consistency. Players got to come out every single day with the right attitude, understanding that ultimately what they've got to do is improve and display an elite level of consistency in their execution. That's what we've got to be able to do. Nationally, we've been recognized. Some of our players have been recognized for some unbelievable preseason awards. I think that is phenomenal. I think that speaks not only to their commitment to excellence and improving in their competitive spirit, but it speaks to Marshall overall. For years and years and years, we've always found a way to make sure that the nation recognizes what we do here. I think that started long before I got here. And will continue while I'm here. So we've had 3 or 4 players in the top 100. We got some players on some national lists. Ultimately, those things are great, but the work doesn't change. Ultimately, that says that we're having a lot of team success. There's not a lot of those players on lists from teams that are not performing well. So I tell the team when one of these guys gets recognized, it's the entire team. Now, preseason lists are always different from postseason lists, and you don't get any points, credit, tackles, or whatever it is. But I do think in today's world where self-gratification is at a premium, it is always good for these guys to get recognized for the work that they do. Part of that, I commend you guys because you guys tell the story to the nation of what is going on here in Huntington, West Virginia. So you guys should give yourselves a pat on your back when one of our young men is obviously recognized for what he does. I'll go ahead and address it. If we played today, Cam Fancher would be our starting quarterback. Over the next 30 days, Cam is going to have to continue to improve. If he does not, he will not be the starting quarterback. It's just that simple. Cam is the only player in the quarterback room right now with actual Marshall game experience. I understand there's a lot of potential in the room. I'm excited about the potential in the youth in the room. But at the end of the day, there's only been one guy that's actually played Sun Belt Conference meaningful football. Hopefully, over the next 30 days, the rest of the guys in the room can make the steps needed to be ready when that time is right. That is not I don't believe in quarterback controversy. I believe if a coach stands up and say we don't know who the quarterback is at this point, he's either deceiving you guys or he honestly does not have a quarterback, which is not good. But I don't want that to believe, and Cam knows, if he doesn't come out and perform the way he needs to perform, he won't play. I think you look back last year, we started Henry Colombi. Henry Colombi had the most game experience, and I thought at the time, the beginning of this season, Henry gave the team the best chance to win. I don't know if Cam Fancher, if we'd have played Cam because we just felt like playing Cam, I don't know if we go and do what we did in South Bend. I do think when it was Cam's time, when he was ready, you watched how we managed him. We got him in games. We gave him the experience. Ultimately, he continued to improve, and obviously when he came in, he was ready. That is the plan we will always go with. Obviously, injury and things outside of our control may navigate that, but that is our plan. I hope to get to the end of fall camp and have 4 guys that we've got to decide who's ready to play. I've never been a part in my 20-plus years of coaching of any team where the starter started game 1 and played the entire season. I've never been a part of it. So I do think the way we look at things holistically is today, who would go out first? And then we manage that moving forward. Defensively, statistically, last year was phenomenal. I don't know if we will statistically recreate that, but I do think we have the opportunity to be a better defense. Now, you may look at the stats and you may say, well, last year you were ranked this year you ranked that. A lot of that's out of our control. If another team out there has a better third down percentage than we do, that does not mean we had a bad third down percentage. So when I say that, meaning we may not statistically look the same as we did last year, I think we can have the same effect on opponents and games defensively if we did last year. Offensively, last year's group was different than we anticipated. Obviously, we had an injury that catastrophically changed our approach to coaching the game, playing the game, managing the game. This year, we are anticipating having full bore of all of our explosive players be a part of our program, our team, offensively. I think that helps the quarterback, whoever that is. I can go play quarterback, and if the players around me play better, you guys will all write that Coach Huff should be playing quarterback. If I go play quarterback and the players around me don't improve, you guys will be booing me. So I think a lot of the quarterback position is predicated on those around him, whoever that is. I feel really good to have Rasheen Ali back. Obviously, that's a huge piece of explosion that we didn't have last year, so it changed some of the things that we did. I think he affects the run and the pass. You're able to throw the ball more when you have the threat of a strong, dominant runner. You're able to run the ball more when you have him in the backfield. So that's going to help along with the other running backs that we have. Receiver-wise, I think we have created a lot more explosion and flexibility at the position. We lost some players last year, some to injury, some to graduation moving forward, but I think we've replaced them with a lot of really good, talented players that have experience. So that's going to be huge. And then obviously with special teams, anytime you're improving your roster holistically, it's going to affect special teams. We have a lot of players in the defense, back end, and at the linebacker position that are going to be phenomenal for us. The other hidden gem in there is we didn't have a lot of wide receivers last year who could play special teams. This year we do. Same thing at the running back position. When we lost some guys, the other running backs weren't able to take on a load on special teams because they had a little bit more attention in the running back room. And I think where we are now, that's going to create a lot of flexibility. So, again, as excited as I could be to see you guys face here, I'll open up with questions.
Last year I asked you, how far you progressed from year 2 to year 3? Is it big gap, small changes? How far have you come, you thinking, being a head coach from year 1 to year 2, now year 2 to year 3?
I think I've grown a lot because I've done a lot of self-evaluation, a lot of organizational evaluation. You guys know typically in camp we bring in a lot of outside people to kind of put eyes on it. We started doing that a little bit earlier in camp. I communicated and kind of went back and forth with a lot of different coaches on how they're managing things. I think ultimately I'm a better coach because the people around me have a better understanding of the expectation and how to navigate Marshall University. So they're able to help more. They're able to kind of spearhead some things more. Speaking more of the staff. The staff is, obviously we've lost some, but we've been a little bit more, had a little bit more continuity, which is good. You're talking about guys now that have worked with each other for 3 seasons, going on 3 seasons, which makes me a better coach because they're better coaches. So I feel really good about it. Do I think that I'm all of a sudden a czar of coaching? No. I mean, I think I'm always a work in progress, but I think I'm a better coach now because I think the people around me have improved, and we've addressed some areas of weakness, around the organization and around the department to kind of make me a better coach, to have me be able to focus more on certain things, to have me be able to put less time in trying to do somebody else's job and put more focus on how to build a relationship with the players, what part of the offense do we need to improve, same thing with the defense and special teams.
Coach, we talked a couple weeks ago about what that Notre Dame win can give you bounce this year with the schedule you have. Does that obviously give you guys more confidence to go into a Raleigh and to entertain Virginia Tech, go to East Carolina and feel like you got a shot?
Well, I think what it does is it validates the process. Starting today, when we have our first team meeting tonight at 6 o'clock, that'll be the last time we talk about Notre Dame. The reality is we are going to have to talk about it because you guys are going to find a way to ask me a question about it. But we're going to move on from talking about Notre Dame and start talking more about the process that got us the Notre Dame win. And really, how can we focus and be more devoted to that process? How can we be more consistent in that process? Because we've seen when we are consistent in the process what it can do for us. Now, instead of talking about September, 9th, 18th, whatever it was, in Notre Dame and South Bend, let's talk about the process today. How can we do what we did that week, that preseason, that offseason? How can we do more of that today? How can we be more consistent with it? It makes a lot of sense for the outside world, and it always will, and we don't shy away from it. But the focus has got to kind of shift now to, okay, what made us successful on that Saturday, and how can we replicate that today, tomorrow, and moving forward?
Coach, you mentioned the 40 new guys you brought in. Was there a specific position group that you guys prioritized this offseason when you were recruiting, or was it kind of wide open?
Yeah, we were a little wide open. Obviously, we took a big hit in the linebacker room, not necessarily with the amount of people, but with the amount of production. When you lose Abe Beauplan, Charlie Gray, we lost Dan Foster in the transfer portal. Those kind of guys are bigger than the number of guys, if that makes sense. Their production, what they were able to do, the continuity that they had on defense. So you can't just go out and say we take one person for Beauplan. You got to kind of take a couple and see who can do what. So we put a little more focus on that. We thought we weren't as deep as we needed to be at linebacker. I don't know if you guys remember, Beauplan played in the ODU game and he was kind of banged up a little bit, and probably moving forward, we don't want to be in a situation where we have to play a guy who's a little bit hampered because of not having great depth behind him. So I think we have great depth at that position now. Now, what can they do? I don't know, because all but 2 of them didn't get here until June. So as far as putting on pads and those type of things, I think physically we look good. I think physically we have the depth. What we've seen in the summer from their work habits and their work ethics with Coach B.A. has been great, but we put on a helmet tomorrow, and things change. Surprisingly, when you put on a helmet, the world changes. But I do feel good about the depth in that position. I do feel like we were able to have a lot of competition at that position, which is going to allow us to do more. When I say do more, practice more, lift more, play more reps, because now if we lose one guy, it's not like, well, okay, now we've changed a lot of different pieces.
And with the tight end position, Devin Miller obviously was a huge asset for you guys, especially in that bowl game. Just how's that position group looking, and maybe how's Toby playing?
Yeah, I think we're a lot more flexible at that position. My background is a lot more multi-personnel than we've been in the past, just because of the players we've had. The more personnel groupings you can use, I think the more creativity you can have in offense. We haven't necessarily had the depth to be as multiple as I want it to be. I think we have that now. Obviously, these guys got to go out and play, but now we have the ability to line up in some different formations, to play some different personnel groupings, to put the defense or the opponent in a little bit of a reactive mode a little bit, to kind of maybe chess match them into not having their best players or best units or groupings on the field and still be able to do what we do offensively. So bringing in the guys we did, I think, brought a lot of flexibility to that position. Obviously, we got different people, right? Toby Payne's a little different than Chris, and Soto's a little different than Conley, But what we've got options, and that to me will help replace some of the consistency that Devin Miller was able to bring.
There's this month with football, and you've been around a long time now. Is this, I know it's all enjoyable, but is this is all football? I mean, there's no classes, there will be, but is this just, sun up to sundown football? Is this?
Yeah, I think, again, this 1 month here where we kind of just get to put ourselves in a bubble and really just concentrate on relationship building, identity creating, and football, is probably the best month of the year. Obviously, when we get to the back end of this month, school's going to start, guys are going to have classes, and being able to manage the other side. But for the next 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, you can really dive into what you say you love. And how many times in life do you really get to do that? Obviously we all got jobs and families and other things going on, but how many times in life do you really just get to put yourself in a bubble and dive into what you love, not have to worry about what's next, not have to worry about, class or a class assignment, or I got this paper due, or hey, I got a midterm coming up plus a game. So we're going to enjoy it. We're going to enjoy it. A lot of it is going to be football, obviously, but a lot of it is going to be what these guys will remember 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and that's the grind of a football camp. And the things that you guys won't be able to report that we learn and go through and talk about that ultimately will create whatever the 2023 identity is going to be.
Coach, are you if you are a bulletin board kind of guy, I looked at those preseason rankings in the East and they had you fourth. It was a little eye-opening to a lot of people. Does that bother you to use that?
No, I'm not a bulletin board kind of guy, because honestly, I don't think you guys know what you're talking about. But and I say that with most respect as possible. I do look at it and say, wow, there must be a lot of talent in this league that we got to prepare for. I don't get into, we got disrespected, or you guys only asked me 3 questions, or you ranked me last, or that doesn't move the needle for me. We're an intrinsic motivated football team. I'm an intrinsic motivated person. Like, I don't need a rah-rah speech to get me going. I wake up motivated. I wake up doing everything that I love to do. I'm probably the only person in the world that's like working like his dream job. I get to wake up every day and do what I want to do. So I try to get our football team to be intrinsically motivated. Like, I tell them all the time, if somebody can turn you on, then there's somebody out there who can turn you off. If you turn yourself on, then you're the only one that can turn you off. There's going to be people that have opinions. There's going to be people that have different views. That shouldn't affect how you come to work. If they ranked us first or last, should we cancel practice 2 days from now because they ranked us first? And so obviously I think it's good for me, because I look at it and say, wow, there's 3 other teams out there that obviously are doing something really well. So we have to be prepared not only to face those 3 teams, but all the other teams in our league that have a lot of talent as well.
When you look out at the field and some of the improvements that are going on, how does that help better the program? Obviously, new video board, other things going on around. How does that help move that needle forward?
Yeah, I was a big proponent of the scoreboard, and I hope they have the little pierogi race on there, so that when we don't move the ball on 3rd down, people won't boo, because they'll be watching where the crab hit the ball. No, I think again, when you talk about where college football is going, where college sport is going, the entertainment piece and the game day experience piece is something that we have not been on the forefront of, in the past. I think these type of things, the baseball stadium, the upgrades to the CAM, I think that's closing the gap for us on those things. Obviously, everyone wants to come to the game and watch the game, but there is an entertainment piece to it. And I think there is a piece of the game where you have to encompass the entire piece, the entertainment, the good product on the field, the good experience. Let everybody know the next item that we're addressing is the troughs in the bathroom. It's on the list. It's coming. Trust me, we are going to address it. Obviously, we're not in a position where we just wave a wand and everyone has gold porcelain urinals to use, but we're going to address it. And I think it's just something that our administration has shown that we're making the steps that we need to make to be the type of program nationally and consistently that we need to be in all phases. I think what we're going to see over the next so many years is the facilities race is going to plateau out when this NIL race starts to take off. Obviously, there's not going to be as many Taj Mahals of buildings and things now. It's going to be more fan, engaging. It's going to be more fan friendly. There's going to be more suites and more, fan areas to where they can enjoy rather than, hey, we got a 5 million seat stadium, and I think what Marshall has done, Brad Smith, Christian Spears, those guys, they've taken where college sports is going and they're kind of drawing a line that we can get there quickly. And I think these are some of the upgrades that show that.
Kind of going off of that fan day on Saturday with all the fall sports, just how awesome are those type of events too to get the fans more involved?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes to get to see these young men and women without their uniform on or on the court or on the field, I think is good. I always tell our guys we love doing community service because when we get out in the community, it helps us identify the why. Why are the fans so passionate? Why do the fans care so much? And Fan Day and those type of events really help the fans get to know some of these 40 new players, really get to know who is the new linebacker that's here, who's the new tight end. Some of the fans, I'm sure they've probably got posters all the way back to the 1980s, that they got signed. And those are the things that make Marshall special, that connection, that continuous support, the pass down of support, mothers and fathers saying to their kids, hey, here's the poster that I got signed in 1990. You're going to go get one in 2023. That, to me, is what makes Marshall and the Huntington community really special.
Any further questions?
Oh, good.
Good. All right. Appreciate you guys. Look forward to seeing you out there Saturday and the rest of camp. Go Herd.
All right, really quick, I'm going to go get Coach Trickett here in just a second. Offensive coordinator Clint Trickett, he will lead off. Talking about Saturday a little bit, it's not Fan Day anymore, it's Fans First Day. The reason that we changed that, we're encompassing more teams now. So not only is it going to be football, but you'll see men's, women's soccer, cross country, like posters for everybody. So it's going to be more all-inclusive with Marshall athletics. And you'll be able to really grab our student athletes, discuss with them and especially fans. So I see Coach Trickett right there. We'll go ahead and bring him on up.
What's going on, everybody? Obviously, the key word that everyone's going to be saying at this point of the year is excited. I'm no different than that. Very excited for this fall, especially after an off season, being able to look at what we could do better last year, especially myself as the offensive coordinator. Feel like we have done that. Us as a coaching staff, we've looked at what we need to change, make adjustments to. We have done that. We've obviously addressed some personnel changes, whether it's guys leaving and bringing in guys. We're deeper than probably we've ever been, especially in the 3 years that I've been here, on offense at least, in every position. That there's depth across the board. That's one thing that we need, the way we practice. And, our schedule definitely is set up to that we need to have a lot of depth. So Coach Huff done a phenomenal job, we've said it, of bringing in elite talent. He's done that again this offseason. Us as a staff try to help him. But we've done that. Now we just need to, not screw it up for the guys. Let them go out there and execute. The guys been working hard all off season, working their butts off with BA in the weight room. Him and his staff do a phenomenal job, and it shows up every fall camp and in the beginning of the seasons. And we're, like I said, excited to go out there and put it on the field.
Coach Trickett, this time last year, you guys had an injury that Huff said pretty much you guys were forced to change your whole offensive scheme because of that. So just going into this year, how nice is it to have Rasheem back?
It's great, but like you said, it happened in this camp, so you don't ever know what's going to happen. So that's, going into last year, you have all these thoughts and plays and ways to execute and utilize these playmakers, but they got to be there on the Saturdays in the fall. So that's our focus now, is getting them ready to be there for the Saturdays in the fall, so we can use all the fun stuff to get him the ball. He's a phenomenal player. We have a phenomenal offensive line blocking for him, averaging over 200 yards per game last year, and that's without a player who averaged 11.5 points per game the year before, which is pretty good. So we're excited to get him back.
The coach talked about Cam having a leg up on the other quarterbacks, but you got several guys in there that I know you want to see what they can do. So assess the QB room.
Very deep all across the board. Remember the first year we got here, Grant goes down and there were some issues, Last year, the quarterback room, this year we feel like it's as deep as it's ever been, and that's with one sophomore, 3 freshmen, and a senior, and we still feel pretty deep. Cam obviously has a lot of playing experience here for us, winning those games as he did last year. Obviously, there's room for improvement. He knows that. We know that. We've all seen it. So he's got to go out there and execute and show that improvement. But we also have a lot of young guys on the roster that we've recruited, signed, and developed. Between Chase Harrison and Cole Pennington, those two have done a phenomenal job of just, I believe Chase early enrolled, so he's been here one more semester than Cole, but they've both been, helping each other, competing against each other. The way we practice two-spotting allows them to get the reps that they wanted if they were anywhere else in the country. So that's why the development of young quarterbacks have been so the gains have been so big because of the way we practice. So, and then you add T.J. McMahon into it, a guy who's won 5 games at Rice, and I was joking with a coach from another school about that. They said if you win 5 games at Rice, they should build a statue of you. So, T.J. has a lot of game experience to him, and he does have some mobility to him. So we're just deep in that room. Game experience isn't everything, as we've learned, but because a young kid can come in there and go 6-1, but we got to put them in situations out on the practice field so we know what we're going to get on Saturdays. They've grown leaps and bounds, but we still have leaps and bounds to go.
Kind of going off of that, we heard Owen Porter at Sunbelt Media Days talk about Cam and how he found his voice. Just how have you seen him grow from this time last season to now?
Yeah, I'm proud of him, proud as can be of him. 'Cause the situations we put him in last year, necessarily weren't his fault per se, and I got to put him in better situations this year, and will. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do, with everything lined up right in front of him, not the deck stacked against him, essentially. So we felt like we got the pieces around him. He's done everything he's needed to as far as being a leader in the weight room, speaking up. Leading by example is where he primarily leads, but you still have to have a voice, and he has grown that. It's hard to do that last year when you're not sure if I am the starter or not. So then now he knows, I've won some games. These guys do follow me. They've seen what I've done on the field. They know how hard I work. Now, when I do speak, they do listen. So you got to have that leadership. We have it up front with the offensive line, with all the seniors, and between Dalton Tucker, Driscoll, Ozzie, and all them. But now Cam to be that skill leader is huge.
A little bit of a family competition to see who can have the best offense in the Sun Belt with Travis in the league now?
We're just trying to win. Whoever we play against, we're just trying to win. But it is cool to have your brother in the same division, same league. He's got my dad week 3, so there's they play Jacksonville State, so there's a lot of in the family group text, a lot of competition, friendly competition for now at least until game week. So it's very unique, interesting. We'll he's offensive coordinator, so I'm not necessarily going up against him, but I definitely want to score more points on him.
Does having not extra coaches, but coaches in the family, does that help you as a coach develop year to year?
It's interesting. It's not like every vacation we're just drawing up plays and stuff. We do try to, especially when I'm around my nieces and nephews, be family and get away from football because we're around it so much. But I'm 32 years old, and I've coached for 7 years now, but I've been around football for 32 years. So there's a little bit of an advantage, just being around literally big-time college football every year of my life. So even though it's my 7th year coaching, I do have 32 years of experience in big-time college football.
Is it great to see your dad still doing what he was?
Pretty cool. 72 or 3. So he, being able to still do it at a high level like he does, I don't think he knows what else to do. So he'll keep going until he decides to call it. And but he's had a phenomenal career. I've said it before. If I'm half as successful, I'll be happy. But obviously, want to be twice as better than him too at the same time. So lucky to have him as a dad. Fortunate, very fortunate.
Receiver. How does that group look different now versus last year? I know you haven't seen him in pads yet.
That's a group that, last year we weren't sure who we had, and we did lose, some guy. Corey's obviously had a lot of receptions and everything as far as production, but in that room we're deeper than we've ever been. We have got about 3 deep where we can just roll in, full like hockey change, through all 3 guys go in there full cell change, and that's one thing we haven't had. We were kind of a little more, specific people and specific routes a little bit last year, where this year we can kind of, hey, let's roll them in there, and that DB is going to be tired on his 5th play of the drive, and let's just get 3 new wideouts in there that are 100% full speed, and then gas the guy. So that room is very deep, a lot of competition. Young guys, old guys, great to have Talik back, Chuck Montgomery, excited to see what, Caleb McMillan, Caleb Coombs, a bunch. We got names for transfers. It's a very deep room, and the competition this fall camp will definitely show up in that room. Along with tight end room, O-line room, running back. That's the deepest we've ever been, and that's, last year with having injuries and everything, those were things that can kind of throw off. As deep as we are, it is very much next man up, and, we got to be able to last 10 straight games in the fall, which is unreal.
I've kind of talked about some of those guys because of how deep some of those rooms are being involved on special teams. How important is that?
100%. That's, Coach Galante is going to be in here, and we want to play the starters on special teams if we can. Best player to play, you know what I mean? So if it's a starter and that's the best player at special teams, he's going to play. But if there's not a difference at all between a quote-unquote starter and maybe a backup, but who wants to be on that special, if he can save 4 plays off of a senior, off of Eli Neal, or off of, if someone can come in and get Driscoll off of a field goal block, and you can save legs that way, that's huge, especially being an up-tempo offense the way we are, trying to get as many plays with the rule changes. That it's a minor rule change, but it is trying to cut down the number of plays. So every play does matter more, and special teams has always been paramount, but even more this year. All good. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, we'll give it a couple minutes. I'm going to go find out where Coach Seymour is. Jason Seymour, our defensive coordinator, will be up next. Just to mention, in the last 30 minutes since you've been here, the Bronco Nagurski Trophy watch list has been released. Owen Porter, Micah Abraham, both named to that list. Marshall's one of 14 teams that has multiple selections on that list. So very strong accolades for those guys, as Coach mentioned before, and very strong for Marshall to have 2 players on that list. Okay.
Busy. How are you guys? Good summer? Yeah, absolutely. Questions? This thing moves on me.
Coach, just looking at the 3 levels of defense to have Grant just told us about some awards coming out already preseason, but you got Owen Neal, Eli Neal, Owen Porter, and Micah. How much does that help you with leadership and just having those guys come back when they could have gone and done something else somewhere else?
Sure.
We feel great about the leadership, to answer your question. The preseason accolades are cool for the guys, but the guys are mature enough to know and understand that it's a team game. There's responsibility that comes with those things. We're going to lean heavily on those guys to uphold the standards of the defense, and we're going to lean on them to drive our culture. That's bigger than any one person. Those guys understand that. They're mature. They're ready to go. We're excited for camp because, number one, the depth, but you touched on it. You don't always have great leadership on your team, and we got some guys that are exceptional at that. And they're exceptional because, not just because they're good players, but because the selfless nature of those guys, right? So, you know, I bug them about their preseason awards and stuff, and they shrug it off. They genuinely want a championship more than they want those things, and that's probably why they'll get recognized at the end of the year. It's a team game. It's a dependency sport. That's why they enjoy playing it. So we're excited about those things.
Coach, you're one of, if not the newest coaching hire here in this coaching staff. Just how are you personally meshing, you know, with Huff's system and this whole coaching staff, and also how are you liking Huntington and the Marshall community?
I feel like I'm meshing well. You have to ask some other people their opinion, but I took this job because of Coach Huff. That's why I took this job. During the interview process, we coached the game of football for very similar reasons. We're in line as far as his vision for the football team. That's really what sold me as a coach when I decided to come here. As far as being new, it feels like I've been here 10 years now, because you get into the building in this profession and you live here more than you do your house. So it feels like I've been here for a long time. But relationship with the players, it's been great. We have an exceptional coaching staff, one of the best staffs I've ever been on. As far as what we believe globally, collectively, when we went to our staff hideaway, I really got excited again about Coach Huff's vision for the football team, the buy-in from the players, the relationships that we've built. Those things matter. You get into coaching for player development. That's why you get into coaching. We're fixing to go into fall camp here, and we know that we have a lot of depth, and we really like the way guys move as far as shorts and T-shirts and things like that. But we're getting ready to play football, and this game is great because this game introduces people to themselves, right? It's a hard game. It's physically hard. It's mentally hard. So when you put the pads on and you actually get out there and start playing football, you get to evaluate what you think you have on a roster, right? But guys have to actually go play football now. And as a coach, you get to sit back and see what are guys' strengths and weaknesses, right? My job at the end of the day is player development. That's all of our jobs at the end of the day. So I'm really excited to see how guys are progressing in fall camp, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. We like how they move. We don't necessarily know how all of them play football. So that's what we're excited about in terms of evaluating and developing those guys, but extremely excited about where we are in terms of culture, in terms of leadership, in terms of the relationships that we have within the building. It's been awesome.
And you came into a program, I mean, last year, the defense, you know, nationally ranked, got all these accolades. Sure. When you come into a program like that, for lack of better, is it kind of intimidating because you're like, oh, you know, there's really high expectations here, or do you take that on as like a challenge that you're excited for?
Sure. I look at it as part of the process as a coach. We have excellent history of playing good defensive football here last year. My job is to put an even better product on the field. So how do you do that? You raise the standards. That's how you do that. Whenever you raise the standards, the exciting thing for me as a coach is now we have to do the work of building an identity as a unit that allows you to play to those standards. So what does that mean? That means all the small things become bigger things every day, right? We have a bunch of guys that know how to play good defense. We have a bunch of really good players. How do we move? How do we take that next step to becoming matching or becoming better than that? It's attention to detail. Those little small things make those things big things, right? Challenge the guys every day to keep them in the mindset of improving, keep them in the mindset of attacking, right? Coach Huff talks about it all the time. We don't have a bunch of slogans and goals around here, right? We don't like to put a cap on who we can become as a football team, right? We have one goal, and that's becoming the best version of ourselves. Me as a coach, that's my job, right? So whether you're a 2-10 football team or you're an 11-0 football team and you're the best defense in the country, your job is to always maximize the talent in the room, right? That's part of the job. We're not result oriented around here. We don't look at, oh, we were ranked this, we were ranked that, right? We're on a mission every day to be the best version of yourself. The only way you ever achieve that is winning the day that you're in, right? It's just a question of how high do you want to set the standards, right? Our mission is to set the standards a little bit higher than they were previously because we're always on a mission to chase greatness, right? That's how you win a championship. So hopefully the guys are excited as I am about that. It's not going to be easy, right? Anything that's you're doing at a high level, anything that's hard to achieve, the more adversity, the more failure you're going to go through when you're training, right? But that's why they call it training camp, right? So I'm excited about that process. You would much rather be on the end of it where the expectations are high and you have a bunch of good players than setting the standard to chase mediocrity, right? So I'm excited about that as a coach. You always want to be in this position as a coach.
Speaking of great players, Owen Porter, local kid that's really, made a name for himself here, just had a great career. What kind of has jumped out at you, being around that young man the last few months?
He's different in a couple ways. He's a special football player, not just because of his talent, but his mentality. That's why he's a special football player. This game is mentally and physically tough, as we talked about before, and you're not going to find a kid that's mentally or physically tougher than Owen Porter. The kid loves every aspect of the game. He's a selfless player. He does his job. He's a guy that whenever you're putting guys in positions where they need to strain and it's taxing and it's hard and it's difficult, right? You're trying to equip guys with the tools to be mentally and physically tough in those moments, right? So when you're training players, you're pushing them up to a certain line where they're in fatigue, they're in a position where they really have to strain to mentally do their job and physically play hard, right? So when you're training an athlete, you're putting them up to that line, and then you're coaching the response, right? So how did you respond in that moment when you were physically tired? How did you respond in that moment when we needed you to be physical and do your job, right? Owen Porter is very hard to get to that line. You know what I mean? I haven't coached a player that continuously plays with the effort and physicality that he does. When he gets to those moments, it's like that's when he's his best. He's his best on snap 7 of a drive, where most people are trying to hang on and get off the field. That's when he's at his best, because he has the proper mentality to play this game, right? So that's what makes Owen Porter special, in my opinion.
When you look at the defense as a whole, is there one particular aspect where you think they need to improve more over the next month, or is it just kind of a collective, get to this?
Globally, as a unit, we got some pieces that are back that are important for us. You want to be strong up the middle. We have good returning players, but this training camp for us is all about earning trust, right? We have guys that haven't started in games in the Sun Belt. We have guys that haven't made this call and this check with another person in a game, right? So we have transfers, we have experience, some guys that have played college football, but they haven't played together. So it's about cohesion and communication is going to be a big aspect for us, right? Getting all 11 guys that are on the field to be on the same page, right? College football moves fast now. There's lots of adjustments. Offenses are changing every year to put more stress on the defense. So it's really important that our guys can communicate and they go out and they trust each other, right? We have good players. We do, right? That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go out and play great defense, right? You have to execute, right? Just putting a collection of talent on the field doesn't make you a good defense. So the guys have to understand that as we're going through camp, it's about building that above-the-line depth chart. Who's dependable? Who's ready to go play? Communicate with each other. Who do you guys trust, right? Because us as coaches, we're evaluating and trying to figure out who we trust, but at the end of the day, it's about the guys on the field that have to trust each other, right? So you have to have guys get out of their shell and understand that it's not just about them and it's not just about them doing their job. Sometimes your job is to tell somebody else what to do so you can do your job, right? So the guys kind of know the defense. They know the defense. We're not changing a lot in terms of scheme and stuff like that. Part of the reason I got this job, I believe in a lot of the same things as far as scheme and structure and schematics, right? At the end of the day, it's communication and cohesion would be number one for me.
Do you coach from up in the box? Do you coach from down the field? What do you prefer?
On game day?
Yeah.
I haven't made that decision yet. I've done both. There's pros and cons to both. When you're in the box, you're removed emotionally from the game. You can see offensive structure and picture better. It's easier to focus on situational football in terms of field position and what the clock is and all that kind of stuff, right? It's easier in terms of that. You're removing yourself from the emotional aspect of the game. As a coach, I want to be down there with the guys. As a fiery competitor dude, I want to be a part of the emotion and the competition and all those things, right? But we just have to find out what's best for the staff and best for the players. So we'll mix it up in some of the scrimmages. I'll go up, I'll come down, I'll go up, I'll come down. We'll see what works the best as far as the flow on our staff. So.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate you guys.
All right, everyone. Next up will be Special Teams Coordinator John Galante. We'll have him here in just a couple minutes.
I guess I'll try my hand at an opening statement this time. Just a lot of new people, new faces, new challenge. Should be an exciting camp for sure. So, ready to get to work.
Yeah, some of the coaches have already talked about some of the depth at position groups and how that might benefit special teams. Do you kind of see that as well?
Yeah, just compared to last year, Coach Huff and I were talking about, we've got a lot more mid-skill depth, linebacker, running back, tight end guys. Those guys are invaluable on special teams because they can play multiple positions, can play on different phases and stuff like that. So very excited about the additions, in the mid-skill group for sure.
Going back to last season, what really stood out and really pleased you in your role?
Just experiences. The chemistry of this football team is really, really good. The special teams buy-in was already there. That made my job easy. And the experience of we talked about this in the spring, but getting the freshman specialist going. We had a lot of new guys, and it was the first time I've ever coached a brand new kicker and punter. And both those guys got their feet wet, and that was exciting. So, looking forward to, obviously those guys coming back too, but that was a lot of fun.
How does that position group look right now?
A year better. Like Reese in particular got, he came in the middle of the summer last year, so he just went through a full off season for the first time ever. You forget when you bring freshmen in the summer, they've got basically like a month of training with BA, and then they're thrown into the fire. And now after the season's over, you've got a winter period, a spring ball period, and then you're back in summer again. So, he's done a great job. He's changed his body. So several of the other guys, they're all young last year. They're a year older, and they've gotten a real offseason under their belt. So I'm excited about that group for sure.
Doesn't that help when they've already been through the rigors in South Bend, and you put these kids in these situations, and for the most part, they respond?
Yeah, we'll go back and watch clips of them. Just like anybody did that played and watches a clip when they first made a team or practiced or played a game, and when they go back and watch themselves last year, it's funny. And a lot of things pop out, like I said, some of these guys have changed their body. They're so young, you're still maturing. But they've changed physically, and their demeanor's different. They're just used to everything's not new. So yes, it was last year was a huge step forward for the young guys.
As you go into fall camp, what's maybe a focus that for special teams that you guys are going to work on?
Technique, fundamentals. If there was one area we could always stay focused on, it would be that one. We've got a lot of great players here. Marshall's always had really good players, and we talked about the mid-skill group and the personnel we get to use on special teams. Huff prioritizes special teams. We get to play with a lot of really good players. We got to make sure they're using the right techniques and stuff like that, for sure.
How do you recreate like high pressure situations, maybe in a practice or in a scrimmage, or are you putting these guys in a situation? Does that help you kind of sort out, who you got?
Yeah. As a special teams coach, you're kind of in charge of, situations, and you seem to come up on special teams more than anything else. But we try to do something in the summer when we get a chance to meet with the team, and we do one, situation a week that pertains to one of those phases, and then with the specialist or anybody else involved on that unit, we'll show it in the film room. This is what's happened to another team, or this is something that's happened to us or almost happened to us, and then we'll practice it. Usually just on air, whatever it may be, and, just like you would anything else. But, yeah, you've got to rehearse those situations so they're not new, when they go out and do it.
What are you thinking about at punt and kickoff return? I know you got a couple guys back.
Yeah, Talik, I think, is getting healthier and looks really, really good and confident. His experience is valuable back there. There's several other wide receiver and defensive back guys that we had a chance last year when Talik got hurt to play some other guys. Some of those guys have left, some of those guys are back, but they all got a lot more reps in practice. Coach Huff coaches the returners now, so I'll let him. You guys should have asked that question the first go around. I'll let him answer that next time. But there's some good guys, some young guys last year that will be a lot more improved this year at catching punts and kicks, being comfortable, and they're explosive. So it'll be exciting to watch them work with Coach.
Coach, as the special teams coordinator, people think kickers and punters, but how do you go about a practice? Well, I know you've got certain stations and phases, but are you just kind of always you got to look at everybody, right?
That's right. So offense and defensive coordinators, to my knowledge, they call plays, they come up with plays, they call plays in the game. For special teams, you're calling plays in the game, but the play sheet's a lot shorter. So it's the part about being a special teams coordinator is probably the most different or the most detailed is your preparation for practices, like you said, and stuff like that. When are we practicing? What phase? What drills are we doing? Because you got to look after the guys running down on offense and defense, and playing on offense and defense. So. I try to do a really good job with Coach about, we script it down to every meeting and period every day. What are we doing? That's the level of detail he expects from us. We've got, tomorrow, day one, it's in the books. It's already written up and done. We know what we're doing. And everybody does that on offense and defense. You probably just got to you got less time in practice for special teams. So you really got to be detailed on what you're doing. So.
You're just always kind of like looking like, hey, I know this guy. I need that guy to,
In terms of evaluating?
The personnel.
Yeah.
Put those pieces together.
Spring is huge for that. You don't feel like you have to, not that you want anybody to get hurt in the spring, but you're not playing a season, you're not playing a game, in 32 days or whatever it is right now. But you use a lot of that spring practice time for evaluating guys, their speed, their size, their toughness, their capabilities on special teams. And then in fall, we've got so many new players, freshmen, transfers. So you've got to be creative now with a season. You're marching up on how you get a chance to watch them. So. But I try to watch the offense and defensive film with the coaching staff when we all get together after practice, so I have an idea who's doing what well. you know, and who's trending, who I can expect to be playing more on offense or defense, who I've got to look after, who I don't need to eval because I kind of know what they've got. There's no perfect science, but you know, you got to watch all of it. You got to watch their reps on offense, defense, and then we got to really watch their special teams reps and, you know, be meticulous with, you know, evaluating them in practice.
About yourself as a coach over the last couple of years?
I would say that's a good question. You know, I would say just like the players for, you know, the young players I had last year. Last year was my first year coordinating, you know, full time on special teams. So I learned a lot of things, made notes about it. I think the biggest thing was probably, you know, habits in practice. And I wouldn't probably change anything we said or did in a game or any of that kind of stuff. I think that kind of falls into place on its own. And Coach Huff, it's nice having a head coach that's been a special teams coordinator before. We see eye to eye on everything, and if we don't, he tells me what you know what we need to change, and we agree on it and go. You know, so I think just realizing any shortcomings last year, personnel related. I don't think schematically there was any major issues. I think it was. You know, it's managing a season, right? Like, you know, young guys, new guys, you're finding out about these guys as you progress through the season. So handling personnel to help our team win all year long, I think would be the, you know, biggest thing in terms of actually it's on you now to manage those guys, you know. So continuing to learn and get better at that.
Everybody good?
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, again, thank you all for coming out. Obviously, I sent out the practice schedule and the media schedule. Please, reminder for you all to get us interview requests by Friday if you don't care, okay? All right, thank you all very much.
Is that, Grant, is that for this weekend too, like with the fan day?